we've now started looking at comparison calculations. This is when we take two numbers and we compare them, which sounds like a really easy concept. However, it is really tricky. The reason it's tricky is because of the language that surrounds it and the language based on the calculations and how they come up with the different numbers. It is a very big concept for the children to get, and therefore what we do, we start to look at it within the 0 to 20 range again. So I know we've increased our range recently, but we're going to go back to 0 to 20 because we want the children to focus on what they're actually doing rather than the calculations themselves. So we go back, we look at numbers 0 to 20 and we make sure we use the correct vocabulary. So this week we are looking at just comparing groups of objects. So it's with concrete objects, with real things, and we're just going to compare two groups. Next week we move on to comparing numbers on a number line, and after that we move on to the actual comparison calculations that we will do. So we start with the language and the vocabulary because it is essential that the children get these right. So what we've sent home is a sheet of numbers that you can cut up, and they are from 0 to 20, as I've said. So you can just make these yourself. I did for the example that I'm going to show you. I just cut up a bit of card and wrote all the numbers on it. What we're going to do is we want to take two numbers and we want to compare them. We want children to do this with concrete objects. We want them to use things. So I've used the sugar cubes again, and never come to my house for tea because the sugar cubes have all been used for all sorts of maths activities. But you can use anything, raisins, pieces of pasta, anything at all to do this. What I suggest is that you and your child both take out a number and you count out the appropriate number of objects that go with it, and then you compare your numbers. Now the language we're going to use here is I have fewer than you, or I have more than you. The difference is, so it's those three words, fewer, more, difference. That's what we're looking at this week in homework. So I'm going to put an example now of me playing it with my child. Okay, we've got all our numbers here. We're both going to choose one. We're going to build it. We've got some sugar cubes. I hope everybody comes home as dirty as you. Go on, pick a number. What number did you get?
8.
Okay, and I'm going to pick a number. I've got 4. So we're both going to build it, first of all. Off you go.
I love them.
Go on then.
Done.
Okay, so there's yours, and you've got
8.
And here's mine. I'm just going to organise them so they look like this. Okay? Just organising them. Okay, what can you tell me about the numbers 8 and 4 using the word more?
8 is more than 4.
Well done. Okay, what can you tell me about the numbers 8 and 4 using the words fewer? Fewer than.
4 is fewer than 8.
Brilliant. Now, what's the difference?
The difference is 4.
Well done.
And 4 is half of 8.
Oh, well done. No, we're just showing off.
Yeah.
But you are year 2. Okay, I hope that made sense. And if we now look at that activity and how you might edit it for your child and their particular strengths and their particular areas of development. So if your child is finding it difficult, what I suggest is to limit the range of numbers used. You might use 0 to 10. Also, what you can do is just focus on one of those key vocabulary words at a time. Maybe focus on fewer, or focus on more, or focus on difference, and really model to your child the language that is appropriate for whatever you've made. If your child is finding it very straightforward and you want to increase the level of challenge, instead of increasing the range of numbers, what I would suggest you do is to challenge them to come up with 3 sentences themselves. So when you've both picked out your number and you've both counted out your objects, they've got to come up with 3 different sentences. 1 sentence using the word more, 1 sentence using the word fewer, and 1 sentence using the word difference. Okay, if you want to challenge them even further, what I recommend is to choose 3 numbers. Now that's really difficult. They're going to have to compare all three numbers, and they're going to have to talk about more and fewer and the relationship between all the numbers. That is difficult. But if your child is finding it straightforward, let's keep challenging them and let's keep learning.
Baby's it! Baby!
All right.